Tonight's shir is being sponsored anonymously. L'schus Yehuda Leib Chizkiyahu ben Basya l'refuah shleima kroiva and Sora Dvora Basmatel l'zivug hagun bekorev. Okay, so we're in Chodesh Adar, though Adar Rishon, and but it's already Shabbos Mevorchim of Adar Sheni, and we're between Purim Cotton and Purim Gadol. So with all those excuses, I want to talk on Megillas Esther. So there's a pasuk in the Megillah that says, "V'nishma pisgam hamelech asher yaseh b'chol malchusoi ki rabba hi v'chol hanoshim yitnu yikar leba'alein lemigadol v'ad cotton." That the decree that the king will proclaim will be heard in the entire kingdom, though it's rabbi, it's great. And the kol hanoshim yitnu yikar leba'alein, they'll all give respect to their husbands. Lemigadol v'ad cotton, whether the husband is a gadol or a cotton, they'll give him the respect that he deserves. So there's a medrash in Esther Rabbah that says like this: Omar Rabbi Yehuda b'Rabbi Simon, v'nishma pisgam melech malchei hamlochim hakodesh baruch hu, she'omar b'chochmosoi u'b'svunosoi mochoi emche ezecher amalek. So the pasuk v'nishma pisgam hamelech is also alluding to a pisgam of the melech malchei hamlochim hakodesh baruch hu that said mochoi emche ezecher amalek. In the pasuk is mefurish that what's going to come out of this pisgam hamelech is that kol hanoshim yitnu yikar leba'aleihem. So how are we saying v'nishma pisgam hamelech and cutting the pasuk in the middle and saying v'nishma pisgam hamelech melech malchei hamlochim hakodesh baruch hu she'amar b'chochmosei u'b'svunosoi mochoi emche ezecher amalek. You know, the pasuk in Parashas Tetzaveh that says v'hoyo ala haroin l'shores by the Me'il, v'nishma koiloi b'voyoi el hakodesh. So the Balaturim says, "V'nishma koiloi b'voyoi el hakodesh." Gimel b'Mesorah, that the word "v'nishma" appears 3 times in Tanakh. One is "v'nishma koiloi b'voyoi el hakodesh," the pasuk in Parashas Tetzaveh. The other is "Kol asher diber Hashem naseh v'nishma," about Matan Torah. And the third is "v'nishma pisgam hamelech." Continues the Balaturim, v'hainu da'amrina b'Megillah. This is what the Gemara says in Masechtas Megillah, Omar Rabbe Mikra Megillah v'Talmud Torah. If one has to choose between Mikra Megillah and Talmud Torah, Mikra Megillah Odif. One should lay the Megillah at the expense of Talmud Torah. Mikra Megillah v'Avoida, Mikra Megillah Odif. So we see that the Megillah is doiche Talmud Torah and it's doiche Avoida. V'hainu, says the Balatur, Kol asher diber Elokim naseh v'nishma. That's a pasuk about Talmud Torah, and Avoida is in the pasuk of v'nishma koiloi b'voyoi el hakodesh. That's a pasuk about Avoida. V'nishma pisgam hamelech hainu kriyas hamegillah. No, so he says v'smach ki rabbi. In other words, v'nishma pisgam hamelech, it says ki rabbi. So from here we have a remez that kriyas hamegillah is rabba compared to the other 2 nishmas. The v'nishma pisgam hamelech, which is in the Megillah, is greater than the nishma of Nasa v'nishma, which is the nishma of Talmud Torah, and it's greater than the nishma v'nishma koiloi b'voyel hakodesh b'savoida. And he adds, "V'gam Rabbi ka'amarlo." Rabbi is the Baal HaMemra. Actually, by us in the Gemara, it's Rava, not Rabbi. But the Vaistai Siyata gives a Rabbi. But he says, "Ki Rabbi," he is also a remez to the Baal HaMemra. Now, I mean, there's B'chlal Machlokes Tanoim. Where do you start learning the Megillah? According to some Tanoim, you begin with the Toikvoi Shel Nes from Vatichtei Vester. But the thing is, we paskin that you start the Megillah from the beginning, but it's still quite amazing that the godless of Kriyas HaMegillah over Talmud Torah and over Avodah is merumas in the beginning of the Megillah, and it's merumas in a pasuk that's talking about the Pisgah HaMelech of Achashverosh. Yeah. Mistama, this really connects with this medrash that says that Kiraba, he is also a remez for the Pisgah Melech Malchei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu she'amar b'chochmasai u'b'svunasai mochai emche zecher Amalek. And no, what's the chshivas of Kriyas HaMegillah over Talmud Torah and Avodah? Probably it's connected with the fact that Kriyas HaMegillah has to do with Mechias Amalek, as we know that we learn out that Kriyas HaMegillah has to be Mitoich HaSefer and Bepeh from the psukim of Zechiras and Mechias Amalek. The Gemara says in Megillah Daf Yud Ches. So and also Amalek, we know he came to interfere with Yidden on their way to Maimed Har Sinai, which was Talmud Torah, and it was also Avodah, as it says Tavdonis Elokim Al Horazeh. So he stands in the way of Torah and Avodah, and so also he stands in the way on our way to the Hodor Kiblu B'Yimei Achashverosh, and therefore the Kriyas HaMegillah that has in it the Mechia of Amalek restores our Torah and our Avodah, and gives it the proper place in our life, and therefore the laning the Megillah at the expense of Torah and Avodah is really like a bitulo shel Torah zuhi kiyuma. It enables us to learn Torah all the time the way we should, and to do avodah the way it should be done. So I'm just saying this Balat Purim maybe connects with this medrash, but we still have no clue how the medrash is saying that the Venishma Pisgah HaMelech is a remez for Melech Malchei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Mochei Emche Zeich Amalek. You know, in the Megillah it says like this: Vayoyme HaMelech l'Chachamim Yoidei Ha'itim. You know, he didn't know what to do with Vashti, so he turned to the Chachamim Yoidei Ha'itim. So the Gemara says that these were Jewish scholars. The Gemara says in Megillah Daf Yud Beis, Man Chachamim Rabbanim. Yeah, he went to the Rabbanim. Yoidei Ha'itim sheyoidim la'aber shonim v'likvoya chadosh. That's Yoidei Ha'itim. Amar lahu dainu hali paskin her din. Amru. So they saw it. Heichinavid. What should we do? Neimele katlo. If we'll tell him to kill her, the mochor posak leichamra. He'll wake up in the morning. He'll be ois shaker. Ubayelaminon. He'll ask. He'll want her back. Neimele shavko. If we'll tell him, leave her alone. Come and zalzal b'malchusa. It's going to be a zilzal of the malchus. So we're putting ourselves at risk. Amru loi. So they said to him, since the Chorban nitla eitza mimenu ve'einanu yoidim ladun din in nefashis. We lost our capacity to be done din in nefashis. But it's quite amazing that he turned to the Chachamim yoidei ha'itim that are yoidei la'aber shonim v'lekvoya chadosh. I mean, it's what in the world does this question have to do with Ibur Shonim and Kviyas Chadoshim? Yeah, it's like talking to a nuclear physicist about poetry. I mean, what's the kesher between Ibur Shonim and Kviyas Chadoshim and paskening the din of Vashti? Now you know that after the Chachamim Yoidei Ha'itim told him that they don't know what to say, so it says Va'koroi ve'elov Karshino, Shaysar, Admoso, Tarshis, Meres, Marsana, Memuchon, Shivas, Sorry, Paras, Umali, Roye Pnei Hamelech, Ayoishrim Rishoina B'Malchus. So he asks, Kedos Malasa is B'Malko Vashti, Ashalayos says, Hamelech Achashverosh, B'Yad Asarisim. And then, Vayoyme Memuchon, Lefnei Hamelech V'Asorim, Lo Yal Hamelech Levadoi of Sovashti Hamalko, Ki Al Kol Asorim, Al Kol Ha'amim, Asher B'chol Medinas Hamelech, Ki Yetzes Var Hamalko, Al Kol Anoshim, Lahavzis Ba'aleim Beinein, Bo'omrom Hamelech Achashverosh, Om Elahavi Ez Vashti Hamalko Lefono V'Loibo, Vayoyme Hazeh Treimarno V'Goyme. So, L'chore, Memuchon's answer seems like you're adding insult to injury. I mean, the Melech is upset because his wife was mezalzel in him. So what does, and he wants L'chora to be done her as a moiredes b'malchus. He doesn't see himself just as a commoner who's having a dispute with his wife. I mean, he's the king. So comes along Memuchan and he says, you know what? We have to deal with this harshly because this will impact all the noshim in the Kol Medinas HaMelech. They will be mevaze ba'alein, and therefore we have to kill him. I mean, this response is einay moving. Yeah, it's not because of that she should be killed. And then it says vayitav hadover be'einay hamelech. In other words, he liked the idea. I mean, how did he like this idea? It's something that should be insulting to him. So you know that originally when Achashverosh is mitzaveh Vashti to come to the party, it says Lahavi es Vashti hamalka lifnei hamelech b'kesem malchus. Then when she refuses to come, it says Vatimoin hamalka Vashti lavoi b'dvar hamelech. So you see that in the tzivui it says Vashti hamalka, and in the refusal it says hamalka Vashti. Later, when this is presented to the Sorim, it says Kados ma lasois b'malka Vashti. And in Memuchan's response, it says Loi ala melech levadei of Vashti Hamalka. So we go from Hamalka Vashti, Vashti Hamalka, Vashti Hamalka, Hamalka Vashti. So what is this about? So the Malbim tells us on this, and he goes his way. But I want to suggest as follows. It's in a sense similar, but different. In the beginning of the Megillah, it says, "Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh hamoilech." Yeah. Vayom imohem kisheves hamelech Achashverosh hakisem malchusay shna sholosh l'molcha. So in the beginning, it says, "Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh," not hamelech Achashverosh, even though he's already a king for 3 years. I mean, when it comes to the Shna Sholish L'Molchoi, that's when we call him HaMelech HaChashverosh. That's what someone like Rashi says. Ha-moilech, Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh, ha-moilech. Rashi says, Shemolach me'atzmoi, v'lo hoyo mizera ha-maluch. And since he was a moilech me'atzmoi, so it seems that during the first few years, it wasn't yet clear if he's going to succeed. And therefore, true, he was Melech, but we don't refer to him yet as HaMelech. However, when it came the third year, as Rashi says, Kesheves HaMelech HaChashverosh Kisheneskayim HaMalchus B'yodoi. So that's when we refer to him as HaMelech HaChashverosh. Now, on the other hand, Vashti came from a noble family. Vashti, the Gemara tells us in Megillah, Daf Yud, that Vashti Horashah Bas Benoy Shel Nebuchadnezzar Horosh. So Achashverosh was a Poshet guy who became Melech Me'atzmai, whereas Vashti was a Bas Melech. So obviously, in such a kind of a shidduch, I mean, the relations are a little bit complex because on one hand, I mean, she's his wife, and husband and wife is v'hu yimshol ba. But on the other hand, in terms of the Melucha, she's really above him. It says in the Megillah, "V'chol masei tokfa yugvurasa yuparoshas gedulas Mordechai haloyim ksuvim al sefer divrei hayomim l'malchei modai uparas." So it says that this is recorded in history. So you know the first historian is somebody called Herodotus, and he wrote the first history in the time of they say he was about 450 before the Common Era. So the pshat is that he has a whole discussion about the ins and outs of the Persian Empire. And I'll just read to you. And yes, I'm not such a Velzbucky, but there's a little pamphlet on Megillus Esther by somebody whose name was Avrom Kronman, who was a fascinating person. It's not for now. Anyway, so he sends you to this book. So it says over there that Kanvuzi was the son of the first Koresh, and he captured Mitzrayim. And when he was out in Mitzrayim, so revolt broke out in Persia, where he was from. And somebody by the name Smardis, who looked similar to Kanvuzi, pretended to be his brother, and he took the Maluch. When Kanvuzi found out about the revolt, he decided to go back home, but he died on the way. So the 6 noble, rich families in Persia who had a hashpah on what happens in the country, they didn't agree with this guy's becoming king, and they organized to kick him out. And they convinced Deryovish, who was the son of Koresh, and his family, to join them and to kill the guy that was pretending to be the brother of the old king, and to be mamlich one of them as the king of Poras. And they had lengthy discussions about how, the proper way of government. Well, what's the right way of government? It's very interesting that they already had a lot of philosophical discussions over there. In the end, in order to ensure that these 7 families will have a hashpah on the Sidrei HaMalucha, so it was decided that when one of them will become a king, he will be a representative of all the 7 families, and all those 7 families will have a schus to enter the palace whenever they want without notifying in advance. And the king can only marry a wife from these 7 families. Okay, this is Ad Khan, what I'm quoting from there. Now, in the Megillah, we find the Shivas Tzorei, Poras, Umodai, Roi, Pnei HaMelech, Hayoshvim, Rishona B'Malchus. So, Kafi Anira, these are the representatives of the 7 families that put up the king. And they didn't need the Hoshota of the Sharvit in order to allow them to enter the palace. And now that we understand that the king was really Kofuf, he was subordinate to the 7 families, and he had to take a wife from them, so that would give them a hand in the running of the government. So we understand that Vashti wasn't just a queen because she was the king's wife, but she was really a queen in her own right, because she was part of the ruling families. So now, in the tzivui, that Achashverosh was mitzav Elohavi as Vashti Amalka, he puts her name before Vashti the queen, not the queen Vashti. Why? Because his taina is that in spite of the fact that she's a malka, but first and foremost, she's Vashti. She's my wife. And since she's my wife, and Vahu Yimshol Ba, so he has the right to be mitzvah her to come. But really, the depth of his kavanah was that through the Vahu Yimshol Ba, as a husband in a wife, he will also make her meluche kofuf to him. But Vatimoin Hamalke Vashti, she refuses. She sees herself as first and foremost a queen b'schos atzma, and after that she's Vashti, his wife. And as a malka, she's not kofuf to him, and therefore she refuses. So now, really, the sugya over here is the sugya of ein shnei malachim mishtamshim b'kesach, right? So therefore, Achashverosh turns to the chachamim yoidei ha'itim that know how to be ma'aber shonim and be koivei chadoshim, because their chachma is in arranging the relations between the chama and the lavona, which is really dealing with the issue of ein shnei malachim mishtamshim b'keser echad, and that's what he needs advice for. Now, it says in the Gemara Megillah, Vatimoin Hamalka Vashti, Mechdi, Pritzta Havoy. She wasn't a tznuah. My time, why didn't she come? I'm just saying, Porcha Batzaras, and then the other, so in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Aleph, it says, Shloisha nibtu v'loi ro, novot v'achitoifel v'tztikini parei. Achitoifel ro at Tzaras. And therefore he thought he's a melech, because v'loi b'sheva bito he denafkamin of Shloime, but he wasn't a melech. You see from the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Aleph, that Tzaras is a simon that you're a king. So it could be that that's why Porcha Batzaras, she refused to come, because that enhanced her position, that she is the king, not he. And the other Mandahoma that says that she had a zonov, it could be, the Targum Yonason ben Azil on the pasuk V'nesoncha Hashem l'roish v'loi l'zonov. The Targum Yonason ben Azil says V'yamane meimro da Hashem yaschoin l'malchin v'loi l'hedyotin. So zonov is the opposite of being a king. So she understood that if she'll be machnia to the request of Achashverosh, she will become a zonov. She's gonna undo her malchus. So both Manda Amrim are dealing with this issue. Now we see that in spite of the fact that l'chatchila, when Achashverosh sent the request that she should come, he relates to her as Vashti HaMalka, meaning that her Malchus comes only because she's Vashti, his wife, and therefore she should be kafuf to him. But after she refuses to come and she considers herself HaMalka Vashti, right, and she's emphasizing that the Malchus is hers and it's not from him. So he asks the Shivas Roye Pnei HaMelech Kados Ma'alasos B'Malka Vashti, because that didn't come. His ganze taina to be mechayever to come is because he says that she's Vashti Hamalka, that she's first and foremost his wife. But why now, when he's talking to the Sorim, he says Hamalka Vashti? The pshat is that these Sorim, they're really the representatives of the families, the Shivas Roya Pnei HaMelech. Yes, so and he knows that to them this is a very sensitive thing. So he doesn't refer to her as Vashti Hamalka, but Hamalka Vashti, as if he's masking that really her malchus is above his. But now it comes out that the Roya Pnei HaMelech were really very confused now what to do, because if they're going to be done her lefishi tosom, they really hold that it wasn't a merida b'malchus, because in their opinion, I mean, she's the queen and he's the queen's husband. But if they're going to do that, they're endangering themselves, right? And if they're bidan her lamisa, so they're being masking to the king that he's above her, and they don't want to make that statement that he's above her, so they don't know how to respond to this question. Comes Mamuchon Haman, and he says, in other words, so you see that he's using Achashverosh's language, Vashti Amalka, which is the lashon that Achashverosh used in the Tzivur. However, Achashverosh used this lashon in order to show that she's first and foremost his wife, and then she's begrora of being his wife. She's also a queen. But in Haman's words, even though Achashverosh could understand that that's what he means, that he really agrees to Achashverosh that she's first Vashti and then Hamalka, but it could also be understood as he continues, because what does he continue to say? That she did is not just a matter of between her and him, but this is something that's going to impact all the women in the kingdom. And since this is something that's going to impact all the women in the kingdom, so the issue is really Vashti. She's also a Malka, but the issue is really Vashti as Mrs. Achashverosh, not as a queen, because it's Imal HaMelech Tov, Yetzei Dvar Malchus Mulfanav, Yikosim V'dosei Paras U'Madav V'lo Yavai Asholoi Tovei V'ashtu L'fnei HaMelech HaShresh, U'Malchusei Yinosin Lo, and then V'nishma Pitzkom HaMelech HaSheyase, B'chol Malchusei Ki Rabbi, B'chol HaNoshim Yifnu Yikor L'Ba'aleim. So, in other words, Haman advised Achashverosh not to be maimed the din on Merida B'Malchus, because that is really a point of contention. I mean, that's a very sensitive nekuda. So he should say that the issue is there's another issue that it'll become known that she refused to come to him. It'll have impact on all the noshim lahavzis baleim b'anim, and Mamela he'll be able to be mekayim shneim. He could be mekayim the din of Merid b'Malchus according to his own opinion. On the other hand, he could get the haskama of the Sorim Hayoshim Rishonim b'Malchus because they won't see it as undermining the Vashti's being Malka in her own schus. And that's why Haman really doesn't say that she should be killed. He just says, Shaloi Tavai Oid Lefnei HaMelech. Rashi says, Loi Tavai V'lokach Nerga. What does that mean? All Haman said is that there should be a psak, Shaloi Tavai Lefnei HaMelech. And Rashi says, V'lokach Nerga. Maybe we can say that in order to be Maineya, the Shara Noshim Lahavzis Baleim Beineim, it's enough that she should get an einish of Loi Tavai. But once she'll have an einish of Loi Tavai Lefnei HaMelech, so the Yoshrim Rishona B'Malchus, the 7 families, will lose their interest in having her alive because they want her alive only in order that they should be able to have a hand in the running of the government. And now he can already kill her. Yeah. But I'll call upon him the Vayitav Hadavar Be'enei HaMelech V'Asorim. Vayas HaMelech Yidvar Mamuchan. What was the Vayitav Hadavar? Because he really came up with a brilliant idea how to be Mekayim Shneihem. Okay, now Vayishlach Svarim El Kol Medinas HaMelech El Medina u'Medina Kiksava Vel Am Va'am Kil Shoinoi Liyois Kol Ish Soirer Bebeisoi u'Medaber Kil Shoinam. So he sent out a decree that every husband should rule in his own home. So the Rambam in Hilchas Ishus Perek Tes Vav Halacha Chof writes, "V'chein tzivu chachamim al ha'isha shetia mechabedes es bailo b'yoyse midai v'yeh lo loy aleha moira." She should be afraid of him. V'tase kol ma'aseh al piv. V'yeh be'eineha k'moisar oy melech. He should be in her eyes like a sar oy melech mahaleches betavas liboy umerachakas kol yisna. V'zeh derech v'chulei ubedrochim elu yeh yeshuva norim u'shub. Now, where's this Rambam coming from? It's Taka says in the Gemara in the Dorim, Daf Samach Vov, that it's appropriate for a woman to be mekayim ritzoin baila. In the Hagoyis Maimuna Yois over here in Hilchas Ishus, he's Mitzayin to Tona de Be'el Yo Rabbah that says, Eizohi Ishok Sheira Ha'isr Ritzoin Baila. But we don't find anywhere in Chazal, at least that we have, that the Rambam says that her husband should be in her eyes Kimoisar Oy Melech. Where's that coming from? So there's a fascinating Kesef Mishnah. The Kesef Mishnah says like this: V'chein tzivu chachamim v'chulei Perek Hama de Kedushin Amru she'ata ve'imcha chayavim b'chvoid avich. Okay, so you see that she should be mechabed the husband. Uperek Hama de Megillah b'Haggadah Hizkiru the Amri inchi karche bebeisei pardash chelahevi v'dvarim pshutim. Now, what's this Gemara? The Gemara that he's quoting in Megillah, it's like this. The Gemara says, Liyois kol ish soirer bebeisei. Omar Rava, ilamole igoros orishonis. If Achashverosh wouldn't have sent out this decree, lo nishtayim misoyneim shel Yisrael sordu polit. No Jew would be left alive. Why? Because the people, when they got this letter about Liyois kol ish soirer bebeisei, they said, "My hai the shodil on Liyois kol ish soirer bebeisei pshita." I feel like karche bebeisei. Even a lowly person that has a lowly profession, Padash Chalahevi is a king in his house. It's a Dava Pashit. I mean, why is he even sending this to us? And therefore, they considered him to be a shoita. I mean, that he's sending out such a decree. Rashi says, "Alamola yigoris rishonis shehuchzak bohen shoita be'ene abris loy nishtaya shehoyu mamarin lahorgam b'mitzvah samelach beyigoris ha'imtzoyis v'loy hoyu mamtinin l'yoyim hamoyed." And Rashi says, "My height is shogalon. Omer ma'omis mazeh shesholach lonu liyois kol ish sorei bebeisei pshita she'afai garden sorei bebeisei padashche is a pocket v'nogit." Anyway, so the Kesef Mishnah is bringing this Gemara as a source for the Rambam that Yiyeh be'eineho k'moy sar oy melech. This because it says afila no karche bebeisei padashche lev. But I ask you, I mean, the Kesef Mishnah is not bringing the pasuk of Lias Kol Ish Sorei Bebeisei because it's a pasuk Achashverosh is saying it, and we can't learn from Achashverosh. So he's bringing the Gemara that says that there was no need for Achashverosh is saying that because it's of a pasuk, and that's why the Kesef Mishnah is Messiah is Dvarim Pshutim. But I ask you, if it was Dvarim Pshutim to all the people in the 127 Medinas HaMelech Achashverosh, so why is the Rambam B'chlal saying it? And why is he saying that Tzivu Chachamim? Yeah, where is the Tzivu Chachamim? And why were the Chachamim Mitzav something that Achashverosh looked like a fool for saying it? And the Rambam is saying that Tzivu Chachamim Sheyiyeh Be'eineo Kesar Oy Melech. And the Kesef Mishnah is saying that this is really coming from the decree of Achashverosh, which was unnecessary, as the Gemara says, because Dvarim Pshutim knew. So why would Tzivu Chacham? So I want to say that what was pashut to the Anshe Paras Umadai and the Kol Medinas HaMelech is not pashut for Yidden, and we can't learn from them the appropriate relations between a husband and wife, because the Rambam in the previous in the halacha before in halacha Yotes says v'chein Tzivu Chachamim sheyeh adam mechabed es ishto yoyse migufoy v'oy havo kegufay. V'im yesh lo imam in harbe, marbe b'toivasa k'fi hamam. V'lo yatil oleha ema yisera. V'yeh dibura ima benachas, v'lo yeh otzei, v'lo roigeis. And this comes from the Gemara in Yevamos Daf Samach Beis. So, based on this halacha, Yutes, is it pashut that what he says in the next halacha, that yeh loy oleha moira, v'tase kol ma'aseh al piv, v'yeh beineu kasarei melech. So I'm saying, to us, what was pashut to the Persians is not pashut to us at all. But the Chachamim tzivu, and they said what they set up what the proper relationship should be between husband and wife. And Avada, the Seder of the halachis, is also meduyik. Only after the one is Mekayim, the Masjid Tzivu Chachamim halacha Yotes, Oyavo Kegufa, Yomachab Do Yosem Migufa, V'lo Yatvel Aleim Yisera. Then we have the halacha Chav, that Tzivu Chachamim sheyeh loy oleha moira v'taseh kol ma'aseh al piv v'yeh beinei k'may sar melech. But lefizeh, where's the Rambam get it from? I mean, if it doesn't come from the Pshitas, so where's the Tzivu Chachamim? Where's the Rambam get it from? So maybe the Rambam had a medrash that we don't have, but I want to say that this is be'emes our medrash, because the Medrash says, Reb Yudin v'Reb Levi b'Shem Reb Yochanan and Kol Makom Shenema b'Megillah Zu l'Melech Achashverosh b'Melech Achashverosh Shekosav Medam. V'Chol Makom Shenema l'Melech Stam Mishamesh Kodesh v'Chol. Whenever it says Stam Melech in the Megillah, it's Mishamesh Kodesh v'Chol. The Gemara in Megillah Daf Tesvav says, Balayla hu nodid Ashnas HaMelech Amar Reb Tanchim nodid Ashnas Malka Shalom. Come to choice that in the Divrei Chachamim, it was nisparish that the Pisgam HaMelech has also a shimush of kodesh, and that's a Pisgam of Malka Shalom. Now, in spite of the fact that in the eyes of the Anshe Medinas HaMelech Achashverosh, it was pashut that afilu karche bebeisei pardashke lehevi, that's al derech hakilkul. That's not, we don't believe in that he should be a pardashke. He should be a king in his house, because by them the husband was shoylet in his house. But by us it's the mechabdo yoisem migufa. But it was neschadish in the shimush of kodesh in the Pisgah Malka Shalom that together with the mechabdo yoisem migufa, he should be beineu kesarei melech. Ubaifin that here is the tzivu chachamim that he should be like a Sar Melech. In other words, when the Medrash says that a Melech Stam in the Megillah also has a meaning of Kodesh, so we now read the pasuk of Nishma Pisgam HaMelech, and Leah is called Ish Sorer Bebeisoi as something that's being said in the name of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And this is the Tzivu Chachamim, that Yeh Kalish, that he should be in her eyes like a Sar Oy Melech. Now, this could also be the pshat why we say V'nishma Pisgam HaMelech, etc. Ki Rabbi, because we say, as you know, the Sifri says in Parashat Nazi, Godol HaSholem, Usnu HaMachlekes. And this Pisgam HaMelech is to be maimed the Shloim Bayis, and therefore it's Rabbah. The Rambam in the end of Hilchas Sanhedrin says, Hilchas Chanukah, I'm sorry. The Rambam says, Hoy olafon of Ner Beisoy v'Ner Chanukah, Hoy Ner Beisoy v'Kiddush Hayoim, Ner Beisoy koidim shum Shloim Bayis, Shaharei Hashem Nimchak, Lasoy Sholem b'Nish Lishtoi, Godel HaSholem, Shekol HaTorah Lo Nitnei, Lasoy Sholem Boilam, Shenemad Yochel Da'achinoim, V'chol Nesiv Yisrael Sholem. So that's Rabbah, Godel HaSholem. And therefore, what the Baal HaTurim says, that the din of Mevatlin Avodah and Mevatlin Talmud Torah, Boring Lishmoya Mikra Megillah, is alluded to in the pasuk of V'nishma Pisgam HaMelech Ki Rabbahi, that it's Rabbah than the other two V'nishmas, than the V'nishma of Avodah, and it's Rabbah from the Nishma of Torah. Yeah, that's because the Pisgam HaMelech, which says in the Megillah, is about the Rabbah. He is Godel HaSholem, and since Kol HaTorah Kula Nitna Lasei Sholem Boilam, so it's only right that the Pisgam HaMelech Ki Rabbahi should be Doiche Avodah and Talmud Torah. Okay, now we'll go back to what Rabbi Yehuda Reb Simon said. Rabbi Yehuda Reb Simon said, "V'nishma Pisgam HaMelech Melech Malchei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu She'omar b'chachmasei u'b'sfunasei mochoi emche ezecher HaMolech." And what's the shaychus? But now we'll understand that this Indian of Leois Kol Ish Soirei Bebeisoi is really the essence of Mechias Amalek. How's that? Because the shirish of Amalek, the root of Amalek, is as the pasuk says, "V'timna hoisa pilegish leElifaz ben Esav v'teled leElifaz es Amalek." So Amalek was a son of a pilegish. Now earlier it says, "Ulivnei hapilagshim asher la'Avraham nosan Avraham matonos." Rashi says, "Hapilagsham choseksiv." Rashi is Goris, Pei Lamed Gimel Shin Mem without a yud between the shin and the mem. Choseksiv shaloi hoysel pilegish achas. It's plural, but it's singular because there was really only one. He Hagar. There weren't many pilagshim. There was just Hagar. He Ktura. Then Rashi goes on, Noshim b'ksuba. Pilakshim b'loiksuba, because I'm reading B'Sanhedrin, b'noshim u'pilakshim didzav. Okay. Now, the Chsam Sofer, in the Chsam Sofer al-Torah, in the Teres Moshe, al-Asar, says like this. Amru Chazal, pilegesh achas hoysaloi, v'hi hagar, hi k'tur. V'yesh lohavin. Hoksiv pilakshim loshen rabim. In the end of the day, with the yod, without the yod, it's loshen rab. V'nire hatam, shenikra pilakshim, yesh loim al-pi ma shekosva mekubolim, Ki Shem Havaya Shoichen Bein Ish V'ish. I mean, that's a Gemara. But this is an add-on to the Gemara. Ketzat Shem Yud Kei Yud min Ish. The Ish has the Yud, and the woman has the Isha, has the Hey, and together they make Yud Kei. But now he says in the name of the Mekubalim that there's a Vav Hey. Where's the Vav Hey? He brings the Yud, she brings the Hey. The Gemara says if there's no shalom, so eishay chlosam, because the yud and the hey are gone, and then there's eish. But the Shem Hashem we know is yud kei vav kei. So together they only make up the yud and the hey. So where did we get the vav and the hey, the other hey from? Vav hey min ksuba. In other words, really a ksuba is ksav. And it has another vav and a hey. V'imkein hu shem sholem. Avol b'pilegesh she'ein lo ksuba. V'imkein lo yahavi ki im shem yud kei. V'zeu pilag shom chosek siv. Yirtze plag shem. Plag shom means plag shem. It's a half a shem because a pilegesh there's no ksuba, and therefore you're missing the vav hey, and therefore it's a plag shem. And so they bring in the koil of the yo in the name of the Goyen. the same thing. So in other words, really a ksuba is a ksav, and the vav hey is to complete the Shem Hashem. Okay, now we understand obviously that the chiyuv ksuba that the husband takes upon himself in a marriage, that is what completes the presence of the Shem Hashem in their life. And that's why it becomes a Yud Kei Vav Kei, and the Chiyuv Yaksuba is really to be moisif in the Ava and in the Kovid, and that's what brings the Vav Hey into the marriage. That's what makes the Shem Sholem. It shouldn't be a plag shom. It shouldn't be a plag shem. Now, Timna was a Pilegish of Alifaz ben Esav, and she gave birth to Amalek. Now, about Amalek, it says, Ki Yod al Kes Yud Kei. Milchama la Hashem ba'Amalek midorador. Rashi says, why does it say Kes and not Kisei? Va'af Hashem nechlak lechetzioi. Nishba HaKadosh Baruch Hu she'en shmoi sholem ve'en kisoi sholem ad she'imach shmoi shel Amalek. So Avada, it's not a coincidence that Amalek, about whom we say that Ein Hashem Sholem Ad She'imach Shmoi Shel Amalek, was born from a Pilegesh, which is a plag shem. In other words, he was born from a relationship where there's no vav hey. And since Amalek is ma'akiv, the gilui of the Shem HaSholem, so everything we do that brings more presence to the Shem HaSholem is part of the process that is moiche Amalek. And since, in other words, in the context of a proper marriage, there's kiddushin and ksuba. So there's the yudke and the vavke. So that relationship is actually part of the ongoing mechias Amalek, which is Ein Hashem Sholem. And therefore, the Medrash is saying that V'nishma Piskam HaMelech, Asher Yosef V'chol Machusik, Rabba, V'chol Anoshim Yitnu Yikol Ba'alei, and L'migodel Ba'at Kotten, V'nishma Piskam HaMelech, Melech Malchi HaMlochim, that says, Mochei Emche Es Zecher Amalek, even though the pasuk is talking about Anoshim Yitnu Yikol Ba'alei, because the emes is that it's all the same, because this is part of the Ano Eflach, V'oikir, V'afarnes, Yoseichi Lechi, Kehulchis Guvrin Yehudoim. This is really part of what is eradicates the Shmoi Shel Amalek. And Memela, it's an ongoing process. In other words, making the Shem HaSholem present. That is our participation in the Mochoi Emche Ezecher Amalek and Rabbi Sai. That's that. If any